My name is Naveen Chanana and I'm the owner of Nordhavn 55, hull number 45. The name of the boat is Kushiyan. It's a 2009 boat, and Kushiyan means happiness in Hindi. That's where I am from, India. We bought the boat in 2009 August 25th to be precise. Did a very short 2-week commissioning and sailed south to Mexico starting September 2009. Me and my wife, and we had Devin Zwick, captain, who accompanied us from here to Cabo, basically getting us familiar with all the equipment and all the functions of the boat. He's been in Nordhavn 55 a few times. So it was Dinette, my wife, and Devin and me, and we went from here to Ensenada, spent a few weeks in Ensenada, and then went south to Cabo. And Devin left us in Cabo, and that was just Dinette and me. By the time we were pretty familiar with the boat, and we sailed from Cabo up to La Paz, crossed over to the islands, beautiful islands off La Paz, at Santos, and then to the mainland, Mazatlan, went south from there to Puerto Vallarta, and then to Barra Navidad, where we have 3 children, at that time 19 and 21, now they're 20 and 22. So one of our sons joined us in Barra Navidad for a few weeks, and some of my friends and our neighbors also joined us in Barra Navidad, and we had a really nice time showing them around. And so we spent a while over there. Then we went from there down to Acapulco, then down to Huatulco, and we had another young man join us, Ben Lee, who joined us in Acapulco and sailed with us all the way down to Guatemala, Nicaragua, and then we went to Costa Rica, and in Costa Rica we basically got all our certificates and fumigation and everything to go to Cocos Island, which is the world's largest uninhabited island. It's about 4 miles by 2 miles, and it's a beautiful island with about 200 waterfalls in that island. Beautiful place. And then from Cocos we went to Galapagos, and we spent a few weeks in Galapagos, from where my wife went back home, and Devin Zwick, our first captain, he joined us. So Devin, Ben and me sailed from Galapagos to Marquesas. That was a 16-day voyage. It's 3,075 miles, and we've been told the range of Nordhavn is only 3,000 miles. So we thought, okay, 75 miles we can drift. But luckily, with the current behind us, the wind behind us, we made it to Marquesas with 1 day fuel left. So we did pretty good. We spent a few weeks in Marquesas, going through several islands, all the 6 islands, actually almost maybe a couple months. And then from Marquesas we went to Tuamotus, and we circled all the few islands in Tuamotus, beautiful again atolls. And from there we went to the Society Islands. So in Society Islands, my younger son, he joined us in Papeti, and he spent 3 weeks with us. My wife joined us back over there too, and we went through all the islands, Morea, Bora Bora, Raya, all of Society Islands. And from there went to Cook's Island. Spent a few days in Cook's Island, and from Cook's we went to Tonga. In between Cook's and Tonga, we caught amazing about 350-pound blue marlin, striped marlin, beautiful. Almost brought it to the swim deck when it had a second wind, and it went under the boat and lost. We cut the fishing line. So then we went to Tonga, spent a few days over there, and then Tonga to New Zealand. From New Zealand, the whole crew went back, like Devin and Ben, and we came home also for summer break. We arrived in New Zealand in July of 2010, and from there we first sailed in the Bay Islands up north for a week, and then we came to Auckland, and that's where we tied the boat up into the marina, and all of us came home for summer break. And we went back again after a month and a half in the US, back to New Zealand, and then we rented a car and drove around all of North Island and all of South Island. We were out for about 4 weeks driving a beautiful place. So we stayed in New Zealand till almost September. Then we hired a young guy from New Zealand. Anytime we are out at sea more than a couple of days, we would hire somebody to go with us, because otherwise it becomes pretty tedious, 6 on 6 off with me and my wife. So we always hire one other person to go with us. So we had a young guy from New Zealand, Scott, and a really nice guy who came with us from Auckland to Melbourne, which was a 9-day trip, and we went to the Tasman and then in the Bass Strait. These are one of the roughest areas in the world known as. We had 20 feet swells on our starboard quarter, and pretty scary moments for a while, but finally made it in Melbourne, a beautiful harbour, and we were docked right in the heart of the city at Dockland Marina. And I have a few friends in Melbourne, so my college friends who I've met after about 40 years. So two of them over there in Melbourne, and so we had a really nice time. Spent 3-4 weeks in Melbourne, and from there went to Tasmania. Actually flew down to Tasmania, left a boat in Melbourne for a week, and then sailed from Melbourne to Sydney along the coast. And in Sydney we had also a lot of friends, my college friends and others, and a beautiful time we had in Sydney. And so we went from there to Pittwater, a beautiful place full of shallow harbours and nooks and creeks, and spent a few days, and from there went to northwards, went to Port Stephens. That is the highest, I think the sand dunes, they are the biggest sand dunes in the southern hemisphere, in Port Stephens. And we did our first sandboarding over there. That was great. Went from there to Gold Coast. Gold Coast is similar to Vegas in some form. It's like a haven for what do you call the spring break parties. They call it the schoolies. So all the Australian schoolies, when they pass their high school, they go over there and party. So we were there during the schoolies time and saw hundreds and hundreds of young kids roaming all over Gold Coast. From Gold Coast we went to Brisbane, and we docked in Brisbane, and we then took road trips all over Australia. We went down to the central part, Uluru, and we went to the west coast, Perth and Margaret River, and down to Albany, and then back to Brisbane, Sydney. Loaded a boat on Dockwise from Sydney, and Dockwise shipped it all the way to Ensenada, where we picked it up in February of 2011, and in March we were back in Dinner Point, exactly 18 months after we started, and we did about 2,020 hours on the engine, about like 17,000 miles, visited all these beautiful places, and really had a fun time doing that. The boat performed very well. We didn't have any problems with the engines, neither the wing engine, main engine, or the generators. We were almost like trouble free in that department. The stabilizers did great. That kept us from having spilled food off the or even like none of our pictures or anything much really fell down, because the stabilizer did an excellent job. Overall the boat performed Very had an excellent time, and now we are back in dinner point. Is merchant marine. I did the marine college for 2 years and came out at sea as a cadet. Did about 27 months of cadet, and then sat for my third mate's exams. Came out as a third officer, got promoted to second officer, and then sat for my chief mate's exam and came back out as chief officer, and did about 2 3 years as a chief mate on those big ships, and then sat for my masters mariners, and then came back out and eventually got promoted as a captain. I was one of the youngest captains at age 27, and I sailed around the world in quite a different variety of ships, all the way from colliers to general cargo to bulk carriers to obo, and my largest ships were 300,000 tonner VLCCs, where with 72 feet draft, so we could barely go into many ports in the world, and I became an expert in double banking, bringing 88,000 tonner ships alongside my 300,000 tonner ship, and transferring oil from our boat to our ship to the other. We call them the daughter ships, to the daughter ships till we lightened up to about 38-40 feet of draft, so we could go into the port. That was a lot of experience. Very nice, but those big ships, we had a crew of about 40 people, so we had like a chief engineer who took care of the engine room and all the machinery. We had radio officer taking care of all the communications and weather, and any of the anything related with weather and communication radios, and then we had a chief officer who took care of all the maintenance of the boat and cargo work and all that, and he had a bunch of officers under him, and then we had like a chief steward taking care of all the. So my job was mainly just goofing around and doing nothing, just telling them what to do, or whenever their work stopped, my work would start. So in heavy weathers and fogs, I could be up there for days. So that's my background. Then my first small boat was a sailboat, 27-foot Newport, which was in around in 1980, I would say around 1988, 89. I had that for about a couple of years, and then I bought my first power boat, which was a Sea Ray 370. I bought that in 1999, had that for 2-3 years, and for that boat we just went around to Catalina Island and the coast and San Diego. It was not a long range boat. And along the path, I just decided I want to go around the world, go to all the small islands I've heard about, and we started looking around to see what kind of boat, what's a reliable boat which will go all over the world. And finally got down to 3 makers, Celine, Nordhavn, and Krogan. And after doing a little bit of research, found that Nordhavn has one of the best reliable boats, but more than the reliable boat is the integrity of the company. They will stand behind you if anything went wrong. So we decided on the Nordhavn and settled after looking at a 43 and then a 47, and finally settled on a 55, though above our budget, but we said, okay, we're going to spend time over there, might as well be a little comfortable. So we settled on a 55, and that's what gave us the beautiful boat and a wonderful time, 18 months traveling around all the Pacific and all that. Our original plan was to go from Australia to Mediterranean, spend another year in Mediterranean, and then cut across the Atlantic and spend a year in Caribbean and the East Coast, and then come back to the Panama and go up to Alaska and basically keep the boat for at least 4 to 5 years and then decide what to do. But as soon as we started looking into going west of Australia, we came across all the piracy issues. Everything west of Indonesia, the Malacca Strait, the Arabian Sea, and then obviously, the whole coast of Aden and the Red Sea and Somalia was it just changed our direction. We said we cannot go west, and obviously we'd already covered all of most of the Pacific islands and all that. So we decided, okay, we're back over here. My children are back home from college, and we said, okay, we can now sell the boat, concentrate on the kids, and take a few years break. And once the kids are settled, then get back to boating. That's our plan for the future. We had a lovely time with quite a bit of Nordhavn family. We met all over Mexico and all of those islands and Marquesas and New Zealand and Australia, and we made so many good friends almost all over the world. That's the part we will really miss. Meeting these lovely people, hearing their adventures, and making so many new friends and enjoying their company. So that's the sad part, but we are going to take a few years break and then maybe come back into boating and get back to that easygoing life with lovely people and travels and all the things. Talking about the equipment on board, we have almost 100% redundancy. We have mostly all Fruno equipment. We have 2 chart plotters, 2 radars, we have a night vision, we have a AIS, we have a Navtech, we have 2 VHFs, we have a SSB, we have all kinds of instrument displays, barometers, clocks. So we have almost 100% redundancy. We have 2 autopilots, so if one goes out, we can always switch over to the other. 2 black boxes, and so we have like 3 17-inch screens on the pilot house and another 17-inch screen on the flybridge, with almost all the instruments on the flybridge, the thrusters as well as engine controls and steering and autopilot and nav system. The charts we have are NavNet 3D, excellent charts with in the American coast with a serious weather reporting system on the plotter itself. And then for docking, I have a remote wireless remote controller, which will give us we can have the engine power from there for going forward and backward, and the thrusters, so you can almost walk around any part of the boat while docking the boat. And at times after we've got my wife's on the docks with one line, I would jump out over there and help her keeping the boat alongside from the dock and tying it up. So that's another cool feature. It's called yacht controller, or my yacht controller. On the engine side, we have one single main engine, and then I have a wing engine, the lugger wing engine, a John Deere main engine. I got a 20k generator, and then I added a 9k Northern Light generator too in the lazarette, which was, I think, an excellent idea, because when we are at anchorages or even while sailing out at sea, if we are using only a couple of ACs, we just use a 9k generator. So what the cost of it is, you save in battery life as well as not using the 20k. If you're using two ACs, that can be handled by the 9k. We upgraded the water maker from 600 gallon to 800 gallons, and then we have 4 independent air conditioning units, but that's very standard. What we did is we took the front cabin is more full cabin with a queen size bed and big portholes and three hatches on top, and moved the head in the back. So we have the front cabin feature, and we have bigger portholes features. So in the kitchen we have the microwave oven in the center of the kitchen, and we have a bigger porthole on top of the gas and oven. So if in long journeys, when you're using the oven, you just keep the windows open, and it's very, very comfortable. Other than that, they're all standard features. We put some hand blown glass sinks on the heads, giving it a little bit more pleasant look, and basically used custom curtains, or more like drapes, and the bed sheets and all that sort of thing, to buff up the interior a little bit more. We have iPod dock stations in every room, and we have a music system all the way from pilot house to the boat deck, and interior and exterior cabins. We do have a night vision also, and we were very happy with all the performances. We had everything worked very, very well. So no regrets on what I chose, and very happy with the interior and engine room of the boat. Some of the experiences which really stand out is we were in Cocos Island. And Cocos Island is the largest uninhabited island in the world. It's about 4 miles by 2 mile island, and that 4 mile by 2 mile, they have 200 waterfalls. It's a lush island, uninhabited. There are about 5 or 6 rangers and about 5 or 6 volunteers who move around every few weeks from mainland. It's owned by Costa Rica. It's about 300 miles west of Costa Rica, and about 300 miles northeast of Galapagos. So the rumor is that way back in the 16th or 17th centuries, the pirates buried all their treasures over there, and when you go and land on the island, you still see huge boulders with the name of the pirate ship, with the dates 1717. You can trek up over the beautiful waterfalls, you can swim under the waterfalls and lagoons. And the water surrounding the island is crystal clear. You can look deep down up to 60 feet, and it's full of sea life. There's no fishing allowed 12 miles around the island. So it's like you have a lot of like hammerheads and stingrays, and we saw big eels, and unbelievable life of different varieties of fish and all that. That was one of our favorite places. And the only way you can go over there is basically on your own boat, because you can't land in the island. There's no airstrips or anything. Another good experience we had was we actually experienced the tsunami. We were in Huatulco in Mexico, and we were actually in the harbor master's office trying to get clearance to sail out next day, because the Tuanapac we had a go from a weather router. He said, okay, tomorrow's the time you can leave, otherwise you're stuck there for a week. And I was getting my water clearance, and all of a sudden we saw a rush of water. It's like I'm talking about seconds, not minutes, about 5 to 10 seconds, the water rose from about 10 to 15 feet, and all these pangas were colliding, and one of them turned upside down and sank, and few of them landed right on the cement in the dock, and it was an experience. Actual tsunami happening right in front of our eyes. That was another experience, which you can only get it when you're in the right time in the right place. And then we saw on the oceans, obviously saw a lot of dolphins all over. We saw whales, and then in Tuanapac we saw about hundreds and hundreds of sea turtles. They were all over the boat, and there was a lovely sight. We saw some blue marlins. We really had a nice experience, and I am very happy to say I did choose a Nordhavn because they were very reliable boats. We had no problems, and anytime we needed any questions answered, we could raise our salesperson or project manager, and they were more than happy to help us out and guide us. Okay, do this, do that, or check here or check that, and most of the time, or I would say at least 90% of the time, they were right on the button. So I am very happy with it, with my Nordhavn and the company, and to wrap it up, all in all, I'm a happy person. I'm sad that I'm selling the boat now.